First of all, what an amazing year the whole club has had.
It's just been incredible, and we're starting to prepare for end of season activities, and you look back at some of the events and some of the activities and some of the games and some of the performances and the way everything's come together. It's just been incredible. Very, very difficult to put into words.
Because your planning and preparation for the season that's just finished started a long way before that season even began. When you think back to that point, did you envisage that it would turn out the way it has?
Well, you're always hoping when you're recruiting players and when you're trying to help to build a team, you're always hoping that everything's going to fit together, but for sure you couldn't have envisaged it was going to be as successful as it has been. I think very early we saw some possibility that it was going to catch fire, but for the group to come together as they have done and then perform as they have done through all of the games and through the season, it's just been amazing. And
from your point of view, I mean, everyone will point to the Ruben Neves type players that have come in, but actually there's other players that you've scouted and looked at for a long time, and the Barry Douglases and the Ryan Bennetts and John Ruddys have performed just as much.
Yeah, no, without question. It's been very much a team effort. There's obviously been some highlights and some. Neves is just Jota and Costa and Cavalier, they're fantastic players. But then, of course, there's also been some unbelievable performances by other players who are almost unsung heroes in this, like John Ruddy and Matt Doherty and Conor Cody and Ryan Bennett and Barry Douglas. And there's been so many good performances. That end of season Player of the Year situation is very, very difficult to sort out because there's just been so many good situations from players this year.
It's not just the first team that obviously comes under your remit, almost the whole playing side of the football club. But how will you sum up and look back on this season?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic season that everybody's enjoyed, immensely from start to finish. But it's not been without its pressure points, and we've been through all of the games. And of course, sitting behind that, you've got a high number of staff who are working tirelessly to make sure they're either the oil or the glue, in terms of patching things together to make things keep operating as they should do. Players get out on the fields, or loosening things up to try and get things moving and to try and get the activity as it should be. So there's been a huge effort from the backroom team who've done just as fantastic a job as the guys who've been walking over the white line.
Because when you look towards this summer coming, obviously, your job doesn't stop. Is there almost an element of there's going to be less turmoil this summer than you've had in the last couple of summers, but the job doesn't get any easier, I imagine.
No, it's another difficult problem to solve, really, because we need to make sure that we're not only capable of playing in the Premier League, but we've got to be capable of achieving something in the Premier League. That's the vision. The vision is to become a strong Premier League outfit. So, the hard work's already started, and it's going to be a long summer, but it's a summer that we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to the challenge, and we want to be able to play our part in making Wolves the team that they should be, which is a strong Premier League contender that's actively playing in the top end of that league, as opposed to perhaps maybe struggling down the bottom.
Because as regards recruitment, obviously it's a thing that fans will always talk about. With the World Cup happening this year, and that you have to sign players before the start of the season, how much more difficult is that going to make your job this year?
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. There's going to be a lot of pain this summer for me and the recruitment team and Nuno and the guys, because some players might want to make decisions before the World Cup, but not many. Those who are playing in it are hoping that they're going to do well and be able to earn stronger deals at the end of it. And then, of course, with the change in the window, the closure, it all comes a lot quicker. So there's not a lot of time to play with, really, in terms of the summer, because there's lots of activity with the World Cup, and like I say, the window closing a lot earlier, so it's going to make it really, really difficult. The good thing that we've got on our side is that we know who we are and where we are, and we've managed to start to get some of our ducks in a row a little bit earlier than perhaps some of the other clubs, and so we've got to make sure we use that competitive advantage to give us a real head start to maybe get some deals done early, and get some players in the building that we think are going to help us.
I guess, does it help that some of those deals you might be able to do early are some of the potential loan players that I guess you've got to make decisions on at the moment as to whether you're going to sign them permanently or not?
Yeah, and all credit to those guys, the guys who've been in on loan, because they've done a fantastic job. And I think we've got some big decisions to make, because they've all proved that they are completely capable of playing for Wolves and playing at a higher level. So yeah, that really helps us, you know. So when you do those deals in the summer just gone, you're obviously making sure you've got all of the details tied down, so you're able to just make quick decisions at the end of it. And I think we're in good space with those guys. So yeah, no, we're lucky that we're able to tie some of those players down very early, but there has to be, you know, more support to come, which is going to be the difficult part of it.
I guess there is an acceptance that there will be some players who leave. Because obviously there's been a lot of players out on loan from the football club, and players whose futures will be decided at this time. How much are their futures tied into what you can bring in, or is it a separate entity of focusing on players coming in and then dealing with those other players to the side?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, we've got a high level squad list with lots of players on it, and so we've got a lot of work to do. And we had a similar situation last summer where we moved a lot of players out on loans and some sales. And the most important bit is just creating that team cohesion in the squad and the group that Nuno wants. That's very difficult to do when you've got lots of players around who perhaps don't feel their future is here or want to go and play somewhere else and get some real game time. So it's going to be a stronger emphasis as it is on bringing players in, without question. We have to make sure the makeup of the first team squad is correct. Now we have to make sure that the right bodies are in the right spaces, the ones who are going to go forwards with us in the Premier League. And then we also have to work with the guys and their agents in terms of the boys that are perhaps not going to be here, but maybe want to play out or get some more experience, or maybe want to move on to pastures new. So it's going to be a tricky summer.
But almost, I guess, you don't have to sell before you can buy.
No, that doesn't feel that's going to be the case for us. You know, and that's it's a really positive situation. You know, we've got a real opportunity to bring in players that we think are going to make the squad better, and we're going to try and work really hard to do that as quickly as we can. Just
almost finally on potential of players out, the one that I guess every fan would want me to ask you about is Ruben Neves, because you know, understandably he's been linked to so many other clubs at the minute, and I know you can never say never in this kind of scenario, but how much are you prepared for that speculation and that interest to grow through the summer?
Yeah, and I'm sure it will, and it's all credit to Ruben's performances, really. He's a top player, and he's going to play at the top level. And what we need to do is we need to try and match his ambition, match Nuno's ambition, who's a Champions League coach. And that's what we're gearing up for, really, is to try and create and develop a squad that matches the ambitions of our coaching team and matches the ambitions of our players, and then also matches the ambition of Fosen. You know, their vision is to be a top Premier League team, so we have to produce, and I think we're already looking forward and relishing that challenge.
So, looking forward then to next season, just to finish, we've talked about ambitions. Where will we be in a year's time in an ideal world?
Cool, that's a tricky old question. Thanks for that. Yeah, well, the dream is to be achieving as much as we possibly can, really. I mean, who knows where that ends? I wouldn't want to put a lid on it, because my view is that we should reach as high as we can and not put a ceiling on it in some respects. But for sure, I think we've got a really strong platform and a really strong foundation. I believe we've got a lot of players who are capable of playing in the Premier League, already embedded in the squad, already embedded in a really clear football philosophy. And if we can get the profiles of any new players that are going to come in right, then we give ourselves a real chance to do very well next year.
Just one final question, if I may. I know I said final. I do want to ask you this because you know, it's not been the easiest job for you in the last couple of years. Do you feel like what's happened this year, from your personal point of view, is, I'd almost want to say, vindication of the ideals that you've been trying to put in the last couple of seasons, and that, you know, the success that's come through it has shown that from 4 or 5 years of what you've been doing has worked?
Yeah, that's not really in my opinion, that's not a question for me to answer. The life of the sporting director, in my mind, is not an easy path, and football is a game of high pressure and high opinion, and that's what makes it such a beautiful game. Everybody's got an opinion on what's right and what's wrong, either about team or selection or players and so on. And that's why we all enjoy it so much. I'm just delighted to have played my part in what has been an outstanding season, and let's hope that we have many more seasons to come where we're able to prove that we're capable of doing our jobs and we're able to deliver to the fans and to the city, a fantastic outcome, which is Wolves succeeding in the Premier League.